We'll just give a minute or two for folks to join. I think I'll just get us started. Thank you everyone for joining today. My name is Angela. I'm with the Office of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I am joined today by my colleague Daisy, as well as special guests from NYSERDA and BronxWorks. We have Jillian from NYSERDA and Julie from BronxWorks. Just to kind of briefly go over our agenda for today, Daisy and I will share some updates on our end. We'll pass it over to Jillian to talk through a presentation that they have on the program from NYSERDA, and then BronxWorks, Julie will be providing a presentation on their end as well. We'll have an opportunity for a Q&A portion. You can feel free to drop any questions or comments that you have in the Q&A box, and our team will be monitoring that on our end. And as I just mentioned, just how to ask a question, you can use our Q&A feature. You can always also just email us directly at NY-14grants@mail.house.gov. And I also just dropped our office's phone number there for you if you have any issues with tech difficulties, or if you ever just want to get in touch. Before we begin, I just wanted to share with everyone as a quick reminder. I know that everyone that is on this call probably is already familiar with our office's grants program, but just to briefly remind everyone again, some of the things that we do with our office's grants program. One is the grants newsletter. You'll get periodic updates on new grant opportunities from different federal agencies. You'll find out about webinars like this one. If you're on this call today, that most likely means that you're signed up to our grants newsletter. If you would like to make sure that you're registered, just feel free to email NY-14grants@mail.house.gov. Some other things that we do, like this webinar today, we try to host periodic grants webinars on different topics. We can assist with searching for new grant opportunities based on your organization's makeup. We regularly work with organizations on letters of support for some applications that they're working on. We can liaise with federal agencies, and we can also help track the status of your grant applications. So always feel free to reach out to us if you need help with any of these things. And now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Daisy.
Thank you, Angela. Good afternoon, everyone. As Angela mentioned, I'm Daisy Nunez, and we're based here out of the Bronx office. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy day to attend this webinar. We have some exciting news to share. Our office, in collaboration with NYSERDA, has created a Climate Justice Fellowship Plus program, which is basically a $3 million pilot program to advance climate justice in the Bronx and Queens. The Congresswoman earmarked this funding during our last year's school year request. So we are glad to be able to partner with NYSERDA in the development of this exciting opportunity to reach out to our climate goals here in the Bronx and Queens. Thank you to NYSERDA and to BronxWorks for joining us today, and they'll be presenting later on to share more details on how the district's community-based organizations such as you all can tap into this exciting opportunity. I'll provide a quick brief overview since NYSERDA and BronxWorks will be presenting later, but essentially, the program will provide an enhanced offering for nonprofit organizations in the Bronx and Queens to hire 16 through 24-year-olds and transitioning fossil fuel workers for clean energy positions. Some of these positions include system designs and installation, operation and maintenance related to energy efficiency and building electrification, renewable energy, energy storage, sustainable transportation, and any other eligible technologies for 2-year climate justice fellowship programs. We hope that it will serve up to 27 fellows, with hopefully the extension of up to 50 fellows total, depending on the program demand and NYSERDA's funding availability. Fellows must be members of defined priority population, which I'm sure NYSERDA will touch more on later on, and residents of New York 14. However, the host organizations can be entering and or currently working into the clean energy and climate justice priorities for the Bronx and Queens as well. And NYSERDA has partnered with BronxWorks to support fellows throughout the duration of their program. And so that's all on my end. Now I'm going to pass it over to Jillian from NYSERDA to share some more details. Jillian, please take it away.
Thank you, Daisy, and also thank you, Angela. We really appreciate the partnership from the district office. It's been tremendous. And Julie, hello, nice to see you again. And we're, of course, internally grateful for BronxWorks for partnering with us on this initiative. All right. It's all right. Oh, awesome. All right, so I can get into the specifics of how NYSERDA uses our acronyms here. So we call our grant opportunities program opportunity notices. So this is, you'll hear a reference as a PON, and this is PON 5566, also known as the Climate Justice Fellowship Plus program. And I'm Jill. I'm on our workforce development and training team, and I am the program manager, and I'm very excited to be here with you all today. Thank you for taking the time. Next slide, please. I think Daisy and Angela touched on this a little bit, but NYSERDA is very happy to work with the district office and the U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York's 14th Congressional District to participate in the Climate Justice Fellowship Plus program. And it's a $3 million pilot program to enhance climate justice in the Bronx and Queens. Next slide, please. And you've heard us say NYSERDA a few times, and we are the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. And what we do is we work to promote energy efficiency, renewable energy, and emissions reductions across New York's economy and our energy system. And overall, our agency's mission is to advance clean energy innovation and investments to combat climate change, which the end goal here is to improve the health, resiliency, and prosperity of New Yorkers and deliver those benefits equitably to all. Next slide, please. And just a little bit more background on our workforce development and training team. Our programs are preparing the current and future workers to meet the demands of the expanded clean energy workforce and to help New York State reach its climate goals. We have over $180 million committed through 2025, and we work with public and private partners to grow that landscape and our workforce. And overall, our workforce development programs are designed to eliminate barriers for marginalized communities and deliver the benefits of climate equity and just transition as outlined in the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. Next slide, please. Okay, so just quick breakdown of our workforce development programs. More than happy to answer any questions on the other programs or share these links out with any folks who may be interested. We have hiring support programs. We have our Climate Justice Fellowship Program. But as Daisy said, the Climate Justice Fellowship Plus program is really an enhanced version of that program, only available to the Bronx and Queens through the district's office reservation of the funding. And then we also offer capacity building programs. So that's training on a larger scale and clean energy technology training more specifically. So those are the different grant opportunities. Again, more than happy to meet with anyone who's interested in any of those. Next slide, please. So to give you a little bit of background as to what the Climate Justice Fellowship Plus program is designed to do, it is really to build a clean energy future that works for your community. And the way that we've collaborated on making this program is to offer those fellowship opportunities for workers in clean energy and climate justice related jobs to meet the demands of a clean energy economy. Through offsetting the cost of wages, we hope to mitigate the high cost of recruiting, training, and retaining new talent. And in terms of retaining new talent, we've incorporated supportive services and professional development opportunities for fellows throughout the two-year program. And lastly, it is designed to specifically serve individuals who who meet the priority population criteria, as well as residents of New York's 14th congressional district. And the design, again, to really help those most impacted by climate change. You're good. Next slide, please. Thank you. So determining eligibility. So for nonprofit employers, these are the very high level view of what we require to be eligible for this program. And I just want to flag here that this approval process may take up to 4 to 8 weeks. However, it can take less time than that as well, or more time depending on responsiveness of all parties involved. So the first criteria is to be a nonprofit organization, and that is very specifically that Internal Revenue Service of 501c3, and you'll need that at the time of application. Next, we want to see that your organization has a physical address in New York State and has experience serving the Bronx and Queens or Queens. And at the time of application, you'll be able to let us know, are you located in the Bronx or Queens, or have you also served the Bronx and or Queens? We'll also ask the New York State Department of Labor to conduct a due diligence review. And at the time of application, we'll ask for you to provide your employer identification number, and that allows them to review your organization's unemployment insurance records, worker adjustment and retraining notifications, any open investigations that your organization may have with the Department of Public Works, and just generally ensure your organization's compliance with all labor laws. We also require that your organization has at least 2 full-time employees, and we'll go into why that is on a later slide, but primarily it is for a mentorship opportunity for your fellow. Next slide, please. All right, so now that you're familiar with the eligibility requirements, now I'm going to get to the point about the requirements of the program once you are a vetted employer. Next slide, please. So that first one is the employer cost share. So NYSERDA will be contributing to the wage subsidy of fellows, and we'll go into the breakdown of what this looks like in a later slide. But the nonprofit employer over the 2-year period needs to pay $39,585 worth of this fellow's salary. The nonprofit also needs to provide low to no cost health insurance for fellows, and our low to no cost is in alignment with federal guidelines, which is about 8.39% or lower of the gross household income. We also require that fellows receive at least 2 weeks paid vacation or sick time, as well as all 11 federal holidays off during each calendar year. And we also, again, require that mentorship. So we want to see that the organization has identified an internal mentor to serve that fellow through the 2-year fellowship period. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, this is the wage subsidy breakdown. So in year 1, NYSERDA is going to provide your organization with $39,000 to support that fellow wage of $58,500. And the nonprofit's responsibility in year 1 is $19,500. In year 2, we apply a 3% cost of living adjustment, and NYSERDA's contribution goes up to $40,170, and the nonprofit employer's responsibility goes up to $20,085, which brings the fellow's overall wage salary for the second year to $60,255. And to ensure that in alignment with the fellow guidelines, this does mean that they have to be employed full-time with your organization, and that needs to fall within the range of 35 to 40 hours a week. And of course, employers are permitted and encouraged to provide a higher wage, but these are the minimum contributions that NYSERDA requires of the nonprofits to participate in the program. Next slide, please. Okay. So that last slide really outlined the wage subsidies that NYSERDA will be providing. Now I want to touch on the other services and funding that NYSERDA provides to fellows, either directly or indirectly. And I won't go too into Bronx Works because Julie's here. But as you know, we've stated, we're partnering with Bronx Works, very thankful for them. And I'll really let them say what they'll do, but I'll touch on the two other things in this graphic here. So NYSERDA will provide up to $8,000 for professional development activities over the 2-year period. So that's split up $4,000 per year. And BronxWorks will help the fellow with supportive services and administering any funding related to supportive services. When it comes to the professional development funding, it's the same bucket of money that the fellows can draw down. NYSERDA will be approving the professional development activities, but overall, the fellow has that $8,000, $4,000 per year that they can use with approved activities. And if they do not use the full $8,000 by the end of the program, they can receive up to $4,000 for a retention bonus. And we'll touch on cohort services at a later slide, but it's another opportunity for professional development for fellows in this program. Next slide, please. Okay, so now you're a little bit more familiar with the program and what is required of nonprofit employers. Now we're going to touch on what's included in the eligibility and requirements of fellows. Next slide, please. So earlier we stated how the individual needs to be a resident of the 14th Congressional District, which spans parts of the Bronx and Queens. And we just asked that the fellow, as well as the employer, verify the congressional district at the time of application. We also require that the individual is a member of a priority population. So as Daisy said, this includes incumbent fossil fuel workers, and as we have listed here, also includes low-income individuals, those who may have been justice involved, as well as single parents or single pregnant persons. And we'll go into a later slide about all the criteria we did adopt at the U.S. Department of Labor's list, as well as some of NYSERDA's. We also require a full-time commitment and for the fellowship to occur in the Bronx or Queens at a full-time basis. And lastly, we do require that the fellow is a new hire. And for a new hire, what we mean here is that the individual cannot have been a previously employee, whether the individual was paid or unpaid. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the full list of eligible priority populations under this opportunity. So just to highlight a few, we have displaced homemakers, low-income individuals, and I just want to flag here, that's by NYSERDA's definition. So I believe that's about 60% of the state median income. And then we also have older individuals, as well as individuals who are English language learners, and the 16 to 24-year-olds, as long as they are enrolled in or have completed a comprehensive work preparedness training. And we kind of review those on a case-by-case basis. Next slide, please. So now that you've determined the eligibility of the fellow, those two main points being the resident of the 14th Congressional District and a member of the priority population, now we want to let you know the requirements of the fellows. So throughout the fellowship program, we're going to have them check in with BronxWorks. And the first check-in is going to occur within the first 30 days of employment. And then they have mandatory check-ins with BronxWorks quarterly throughout the 2-year fellowship. They're, of course, more than welcome to utilize BronxWorks services more frequently. However, we do require that the nonprofit employer for the frequency listed here allows the fellow to participate in these services without charging time, meaning taking time off from work. The next is participation in cohort services. So this is pretty exciting. We partnered with Columbia Technology Ventures, and they're going to facilitate the cohort services throughout the 12-month period. And what that includes is virtual peer groups, mentorship opportunities, climate leadership certificate course that'll be provided by the Columbia Climate School, as well as skills labs and a climate leadership network, which will be a community on the platform Slack. And we also require that the fellow has that commitment to the nonprofit employer in advancing climate justice and clean energy priorities throughout the Bronx and Queens over the 2 years. Next slide, please. Okay, so hopefully you're still interested in applying because we would love for you all to be part of this program. So now we'll walk through the process of how to apply. Next slide, please. All right, so the first one is we've really tried to touch on the high points of the requirements and eligibility, but we do advise you all to look through the full grant opportunity, which is that first QR code there. And I can also throw the link in the chat if that's helpful. And that's just to make sure that you're fully aware of all the requirements and all of the details. That priority population list also has more details in the grant opportunity if you need more explanation of what any of that criteria includes. We also will require you to do that employer eligibility application. It does not take very long. That's that second QR code, and that's the one that will ask for your employer identification number, your primary contact, your experience serving the Bronx or Queens or being located there. And that's what's going to take the initial 4 to 8 weeks. Once you're approved from DOL, we will advise you to begin your search for your fellow. We also are very thankful again to have BronxWorks because they will be conducting outreach for the fellows and, you know, kind of connecting them with that fellowship directory so that you have a list of fellows potentially eligible for this program. And then the last step of the application process is to apply with your fellow. And we'll go through that on another slide. So next slide, please. All right, so applying with your fellow. This is going to be just a form fillable PDF. And the first dozen or so questions is confirming your organization's eligibility and the requirements for the program. What we require next is identifying activities of the fellowship program specific to your organization. So what we're looking for here is the kind of activities that the fellow may be engaging with in climate justice and clean energy over the 2-year period. So if you think your fellow may be doing energy benchmarking or tabling and passing out information on energy efficiency, this is really what we're looking for here. And an idea of a capstone project. And that could be, you know, a final project of all the materials that they put together for your organization, where that's going to be housed, and the impact that it had in the Bronx and Queens. Next, we want to see that commitment to professional development. So we'll ask you at the time of your application to identify internal and external mentors. And lastly, impact. We want to know what you think the benefit to your organization will be, the benefit to your local community, and the benefit to the 14th Congressional District, or more broadly, the Bronx and Queens. And once you submit this application, this is going to go through our contracts and legal team, which is going to take about 3 to 4 weeks. Once you hear back from us, as long as all is good, then you can start the fellowship. Next slide, please. All right, so I gave you a few examples before, as well as Daisy did in the beginning. So here we have the different sample fellowship activities that your fellow could be working on. Definitely not limited to this list. The grant opportunity has a few different additional examples, but if you're more than welcome to come up with something on your own and run it by us. And just to give you some ideas, it's delivering the energy efficiency education and resources to community members, analyzing specific clean energy curriculum, and exploring avenues to incorporate community voice in curriculum and programs, as well as developing and/or implementing a strengths-based community climate change / resilience planning. So that can include strategies, policies, or projects. One thing I also want to flag here is NYSERDA does not impose any educational requirements on fellows. That is completely up to the nonprofit organizations. NYSERDA does not advise the nonprofit organizations on the qualifications that they have for fellows outside of the residency requirement, as well as the priority population requirement. Next slide, please. All right, so we threw in here a quick case study of a nonprofit based off of a climate justice, so the original program. And this example is of Patrick Cray, a fellow of the Shared Mobility nonprofit in Buffalo, New York. And he worked to pilot an e-bike library program, which provided e-bikes to local residents at no cost. And after his fellowship, it really led to this organization applying to the Clean Energy Neighborhoods Challenge Prize, which allowed that program to grow even further. Next slide, please. All right, so we do have a program application deadline of February 12th, and that is to ensure that all of the fellows receive the same level of supports throughout the program, since of course this is a grant program, so it does have a deadline expiration date. So again, that employer eligibility application, it may not take up the full 4 to 8 weeks, but we do want to ensure that everyone who wants to apply is able to, so please allocate whatever time you think is necessary. And then we have the fellow search and application process. Of course, this is at the discretion of the nonprofit organization, however long you want to take for your search. And then the application process, again, internally for us to get back to you, that could take 3 to 4 weeks. All right, next slide, please. All right, so here is the general mailbox for CJF Plus at NYSERDA.newyork.gov. We have a few people monitoring that, including myself, but I can also throw my personal NYSERDA email in the chat as well. And then we also have office hours. So we had our office hours today at 11, and we'll have our next ones on August 28th. And there is a QR code here, and that is to receive an invite to office hours, but you're more than welcome to just hit the join link on our webpage. Next slide, please. Okay, and once again, thank you to the District Office of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bronx Works, and New York State Department of Labor. And with that, I think, oh, Daisy has unmuted herself, so I'll give it to Daisy.
Thank you so much, Jillian. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm going to kick it off to Julie from Bronx Works to do her presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jillian. Thank you, Representatives Ocasio-Cortez's office, Angela, and everyone else. I'm Julie Spitzer. I am one of the vice presidents of our Homelessness Prevention and Access to Benefits Department. For us to get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Bronx Works and who we are. Bronx Works is a community-based organization founded in 1972. We operate with a mission to improve the economic and social well-being of individuals and families in the Bronx. We have 60 locations throughout the Bronx. We provide a broad spectrum of services to residents of all ages, from toddlers to seniors. Our programs include operating shelters for the homeless, providing educational support, workforce development, and ensuring access to health care and benefits. As a settlement house, Bronx Works embraces a comprehensive approach to community development, supporting our neighbors with tools they need to succeed. So that's our overall mission of Bronx Works. But more specifically, next slide, please. More specifically, the role Bronx Works will play with NYSERDA is by providing case management services and support to the participants. Our key responsibilities will be developing and implementing supportive services, conducting intakes, assessments, and outreach. I failed to put that in there. Providing continuous support through regular meetings, addressing challenges, and ensuring participants have access to essential services. We also, as Jillian mentioned, will help manage the $8,000 fund that NYSERDA has to provide to the fellows. So we'll be helping to manage that to ensure that the fellows' needs are met. Next slide. What is case management? Well, Bronx Works takes a holistic approach that involves closely, working closely with the fellows to identify their needs, develop support plans, and connect them to the necessary resources. Um, Conducting comprehensive intake assessments, identifying the specific barriers and needs of each fellow. So basically, you know, if a fellow's having any problem that would inhibit them from going to work or going to their fellowship, we will help try to manage those issues that they're having. We develop support plans that outline specific services and sets achievable goals. We connect to essential services we can provide access to, like housing, transportation, childcare, legal assistance. We coordinate with external entities. Since we're a Bronx-based organization, we have partners in Queens that we can connect them to. They can certainly get services through BronxWorks as well. But if we don't have the service, we have a slew of partners that because we are part of a settlement house, that we can connect the fellows to. We will continue monitoring and support the fellows throughout the whole process and providing case management services. So we're dedicated partners in this process. Can you, next slide, please? So what are some of the services specifically? So benefit access and assistance means applying for SNAP benefits. If somebody doesn't have SNAP, we'll help them get assistance with SNAP, housing assistance, healthcare. If they need help with transportation, we'll help them get prepaid Metro cards, subsidized bus fares if they qualify. We'll help with childcare services if they need it, affordable childcare. We'll provide referrals for mental health counseling, help them get assessments and treatment for any mental and emotional health issues. Maybe they're suffering from depression or something like that. We can help get them services for them or their children if they're having issues dealing with that. If there's any legal services, we have a large legal department. We can provide legal assistance in immigration, housing, domestic violence, anything that would inhibit them from going to their fellowship. We want to try to get involved and help them resolve those situations so that they can fulfill the fellowship. We also help with career planning, financial literacy, assistance, all those things. If there are any needs outside of these services, we are committed to assisting the fellows and receiving necessary assistance. So that's basically it in terms of what BronxWorks will be providing. We will provide basically anything that the fellows are having difficulties with. They can come to us and we'll have a dedicated person that they can speak to and to help them come up with solutions to any problems that they may be facing at the moment. And that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Julie. Now we're going to be moving forward to our question and answer segment. So we have the first question right here, but please, everyone else, feel free to chime in and add your questions in the Q&A box. First question is from Arif. His question is, we have a fiscal sponsor. Does that work? Anyone can take it.
Awesome. I'll start out with an answer, but I think to be definitive, we should probably communicate via email. So I will throw in the 2 emails, the CJF Plus email as well as my own. We do kind of have it set up that the agreement is set with the employer. So without having too many specifics, I can't give a direct answer to that one. So again, throwing the email in the chat, please feel free to reach out so we can discuss this further. Or come off mute if you'd like to read.
So we have another question from Gio. His question is, NYSERDA will fund 67% of the fellow salary for the 2 years. Does that include fringe?
So the wage subsidy is designed to solely be the wage subsidy. When it comes to the additional administrative costs, I do not think that we get into that aspect of it. Does that answer that question? We do not. Not fringe directly, just wage subsidy.
Feel free to drop any other questions that you might have into the Q&A box. Right now we don't have any, so maybe we'll give it like another minute or two if folks are typing. Right. It looks like there's no other live questions right now, but you can always reach our office directly at 718-662-5970. Oh, okay. Let's just answer. We have one more question here from Barbara. Do you want to read it, Daisy?
Sure. Yes. So Barbara asks, my organization is involved with environmental restoration work. I don't think we fit into this project. So I guess maybe we can touch on if, I'm not sure if you want to share further details or if Jillian has an answer top of mind.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear more. I definitely want you to feel like you need to disqualify yourself now. Environmental restoration can definitely have a link to climate justice. So again, I think my stuff may only go to the host and panelists, but I'll share it anyways. Or I'll hear, can I type an answer? And so please feel free to reach out. I really do think that it could potentially be a fit. Please don't disqualify yourself. The fellow can be over the, so fellows can be 16 to 24 if they fall within a specific clean energy. Oh, sorry, let me read the question to everyone. Clarifying questions, the fellow must be between 18 to 24 or 55 years and older. Daisy, would you like to, I see that it says Daisy would like to answer, so sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. It's okay. You can go ahead. I just put answering it live.
Oh, okay, amazing. Thank you. Sorry. We use Teams, so I'm still getting used to Zoom. All right. So the fellows can be between the ages of 16 to 24 if they're 16 to 24 clean energy technology training. They can be over the age of 18, generally speaking, and that 16 to 24 is specific to the training programs so that you can hire somebody like kind of under the age of 18. And that's a priority population criteria. So if somebody is, let's say, 22, 26, 28, 36, and is low income, they're eligible. The 55 plus is a specific priority population criteria. So that is fulfilling that. So basically, any age over the age of 16, if they're enrolled in a clean energy technology training program, but definitely like there's not an age range for this program, basically, is what I'm trying to say. The priority population list is one criteria, but if again somebody's 36, low income, or an English language learner, they would also be eligible for this program.
Thank you, Jillian. And it looks like we have our final question here from Crystal. Could individuals currently affiliated with organization, IG youth members be eligible for the fellowship under the eligible criteria mentioned early on?
Okay, great question. So I think we would have to get into what affiliated means in this example. So, you know, if it's, I know we spoke to Summer Youth and Employment Program for Bronx Works. So it's kind of like we would just need more context, like the affiliation of your organization. Are they employee paid or unpaid? That's the primary one here. So again, just feel free to reach out to us directly, but also keep in mind that we will have that fellowship directory. So we want you to definitely be able to choose from a wide pool of applicants.
Thank you. And I think we have one last question from Brandon. His question is, what are some representative examples or jobs in NY-14 for fossil fuel industry employees? Can plumbers qualify as gas installers?
Interesting question. Okay, so for the unemployed or dislocated fossil fuel worker, what we're really looking for here is the transition to clean energy. So maybe it was somebody who worked on a natural gas pollutant plant. If they're switching over to the Climate Justice Fellowship program to do something climate justice related, then yes, they would most likely fall into the displaced fossil fuel worker criteria. But again, that's really like we probably need to know more, but generally speaking, I would say that plumbers do tend to fall into that classification.
Thank you, Jillian, and thank you so much, Julie, and all the rest of our panelists, and thank you all for joining this grants webinar. We're so excited for this amazing opportunity, and hopefully you all could have some of these amazing fellows in your offices in the near future. Please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at our phone number, emails, or whatever your choice of contact is. If you have any questions, we can connect you with NYSERDA or BronxWorks. If you have any specific questions, please do not be afraid. This program is for our district and our communities, and I know you all already do so much great work, and I can't wait to see what comes out of this program. So thank you all so much, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank
and just
you.
a reminder that all of our previous grants webinar recordings can be found on our YouTube page at Rep AOC. We have a whole playlist of all the webinars we've done with other agencies, and we'll be posting this one in a day or two. I'll be sending up a follow-up email to everyone that attended and everyone that RSVP'd with some of the slides and some and Jillian's contact info as well. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.